How often do you give yourself permission to be a creative person? Is it something that you think that you can turn on and turn off? Well, creative people will tell you that you can't do that creativity is a constant in our lives, but we will struggle with our inner core to say, hey, look, I'm the boss. I'm in control. And in reality, no, you're not. It's all got to work together as one. Unplug, because we will always say yes to creativity. Totally Uncut, because we all make mistakes. So turn it into a tool. This is Arrow Unplugged. Whew, we've got a lot to talk about. There is so much going on. And if we don't try to create the conversation or continue the conversation, it's going to get lost in history. And then people are going to say, so what are you talking about? I mean, seriously, I think there's a new term, or it's an old experience that's been hidden away from the personal experiences of those that have had to endure it. But it's called selective outrage. That's how comedian Chris Rock best described his experiences 1 year ago at the Oscars with actor Will Smith. Selective outrage. The special was on Netflix, and Chris kept it very close to his heart until the final 10 minutes, and then the world heard about selective outrage. I mean, we've all been there. But did you know it had a name? Research shows it's outrage against a moment. An incident that's aligned with your ideology. Heated conversations fueled by a different outside source, but released in a moment of your own choosing. That's selective outrage. Getting the conversation started, being aware of why someone might be on fire without you fueling that fire. Yet, for some reason, you're always going to feel the heat. This has got to be a subject that we have to talk about in the way that, you know, we don't have answers to why people make certain choices, but we also don't need another excuse or another reason to blame somebody for something. We need to understand what selective outrage is. It's still about going to that source. One of the things that I did in my research is trying to understand where we make that decision in our personal lives. Why do we hold it in so tightly? Then the slightest thing becomes the received. We're going to talk about it for many, many weeks ahead because it deserves to have a conversation. Hey, it's Arrow. This is The Daily Mess, a chronological walk through an everyday world. I am a daily writer, and when things like this happen, we've got to put it out there. We've got to have the courage and the confidence to say, look, this needs to be right here in front of us. And like I said, we don't want to create another excuse. We don't want to blame anything on anybody. What we want to do is we want to understand it so that we can get to the source of the situation. And remember, anger and every other emotion that you feel is a choice. We always have a choice to break free of it. But when you hold it so close to that inner self, it's going to come out. But are you going to use selective outrage to be your answer? This is The Daily Mess. Having bad dreams about old jobs that have been long, long gone. My wife still wakes up in the middle of the night because of bad experiences at a school that she was with 10 years ago. I have dreams of radio stations still playing records. That was what? How many? Almost 30, 40 years ago? It all feels so real. And my question has always been, but why? Well, research shows it's an indication of regret. We've all made decisions in our lives that we wished that we didn't do. Is there really a term, regret is always at the end? A great way to find peace is to unveil what we think is unresolved. To check in with your unwillingness to move forward. And as much as we believe our past experiences at a particular business are long gone, well, here's the truth. The inner core hasn't forgotten them. I've been a daily writer for 29 years. All of those radio experiences are inside these written books with hopes that they would not poison my today or tomorrow. And that's not so. It's very difficult to let go. So what does that have to do with selective outrage and these dreams? Unresolved regret. When you're holding on to something, we don't know where that core source of energy is coming from. What gives you that outburst? I grew up with a father who was always, always angry. I just thought he was just a very hateful man. I never once thought of his days of serving this nation in World War II. Never thought of it. Because at that age, Nobody ever talked about it, especially him. But I always knew he was a very, very mean man. Today, I love him because I've taken the time to research what the men and women of war go through. But I didn't have that resource when I was younger. We had Encyclopedia Britannica. Do you really think it was in there? Somebody please prove me wrong. Selective outrage. It's not something that may have happened last week, today, 2 years ago. You could be holding on to something that has been present in your life for years, decades. I write. I have 2 different types of journals. I write in the morning, which is basically to prepare my heart for a better day. It's not in a negative way at all. It's always about trying to be positive. The defrag journal is where we break the stuff down. We ask ourselves the questions, and then we question the answers, because I need to get to that source. I don't ever want to experience selective outrage. Here's the thing, and I'm just being transparent with you. I have in the past, but my present doesn't have room for it. I listen. I grow with. I go to sources that help me with. Don't ignore it. I'm Arrow, and that's the Daily Mess.